Talk to member of the Reform UK Party and former Brexit Party MEP Ben Habib. Good afternoon, Ben.
Good afternoon, Kevin.
Is it just me, or does this plan make no sense at all? As far as I can work out, the people who get into illegal dinghies and small boats, that doesn't even feature in this plan, so they can carry on doing it. Meanwhile, Keir says he'll do a deal with Europe to accept what he calls our fair share of migrants. In other words, thousands more asylum seekers in return for a returns deal that we can send some of the migrants that we have here back to Europe. Well, you can't do a returns deal with the EU. You can only do returns deals with separate countries. So it falls at the first hurdle. But your thoughts generally on what I think is just madcap nonsense?
It seems to me he's trying to get back something that looks and feels a bit like the Dublin Agreement, which was the agreement that all EU member countries have signed up to, where if migrants got to a safe state, basically they were obliged to settle there unless they had a particular reason to be, for example, in the United Kingdom or France or somewhere else. And then you kind of divvied up migrants in between the states. But I mean, effectively, the Dublin Agreement didn't work, by the way. Whenever Remainers tell you, well, we gave up the Dublin Agreement when we left the EU, it never worked. In the 4 years before we left the EU, there was only a resettlement of a net 36 people as a result of the Dublin Agreement. But, Starmer's plan, I think, can be summed up something as follows. We'll give you some of the illegal migrants that you send us if you let us give you, we'll give you back some of the illegal migrants you send us, in return for which we'll take other illegal migrants.
Probably many more.
Probably many more. So swapping one set of illegal migrants for another set of illegal migrants and legitimizing it doesn't solve the problem. It may have the optics of getting rid of the problem from a government's perspective, but it's actually just embedding the problem. What we need is a government that recognizes that we are an independent sovereign state. We have the agency of power, and we should use it. And we should recognize that our international rights enable us to enforce our borders, and we should enforce them, Kevin. Whether that involves deploying Coast Guard in the Channel and or deploying covert operatives in Turkey, in France if needs be, in order to tackle the people smugglers, get on and do it. Stop relying on the French. Stop relying on the EU. They created this problem. There are 330,000 illegal migrants entering Europe every year. They come in through Italy, the Western Balkans, and Greece. Those countries, collectively EU member states, have failed to police their borders. Why we think that by Starmer trotting off to France or The Hague or whichever other European country he wishes to go to, that he can solve the problem. He can't. The only way we can do it is if our government wakes up to their responsibility to enforce our borders. That's what we want our government to do.
Yeah, I've never understood Labour's other line, which they've been trotting out for years. We need to set up legal routes. No, I got a better idea. Let's not set up any routes at all. There are 70 million people in this country. We are officially full. We do not have the infrastructure for this tidal wave of people coming in day after disastrous day. Starmer also says that he wants to, he promises, and by the way, when Keir Starmer promises something, don't bet the farm on it. He promises that he will not reverse Brexit, but he wants to set up much closer ties with Europe. Why? Why does he want to set up much closer ties with Europe? We voted to leave Europe.
To all intents and purposes, he will give up on whatever little Brexit we've got. That's what he's going to do. He's going to align us with EU regulations dynamically. So as they make new laws, we're going to adopt those laws. And he's going to say, well, there you go. We've got a good trading relationship now with the EU. we're still out of the EU, but actually we've got a good trading relationship. What he won't tell you, it's a bit like this migrant deal, that actually all he's done is sweep it under the carpet. And in all but name, we will be in the European Union. Do you remember the Ditchley Park? I don't know if you can remember back to February this year, Kevin, when there was a conference at Ditchley Park where Starmer and a number of other Labour Party members went, including Michael Gove.
Oh, yeah, it's all coming back to me in waves of horror. Yeah. I remember now, yes.
Yeah, well, Ditchley Park was where they concocted this plan to get closer to Europe, to somehow get rid of the schism that they described that we've now got between ourselves and the European Union, to smooth that all over. It's nothing other than going back into the European Union. That's what they're going to do.
And it's so sort of cap in hand, isn't it, that, you know, if he must unleash this useless plan, you'd think he'd have the decency to do it to us in Britain. Instead, he goes to The Hague to say to the Europeans, this is what I'll do. Is that all right with you? I mean, it's really indicative of his inclinations, isn't it, that he makes this announcement in the heart of the EU.
But you hit the nail on the head, Kevin. Every single government policy area, we seem unable as a country to act on unilaterally. The whole point about being an independent sovereign state is to take independent sovereign action. We wish to do everything, including Rishi Sunak, by the way. Sunak and Starmer, pretty much cut from the same cloth. They want to do everything in either bilateral or multilateral agreements. They want to be part of, you know, to operate through the EU, to operate through the UN, to operate through the World Health Organization, to operate through a bilateral agreement with France where we send them £500 million and they just continue to send their illegal migrants to us. Our government has lost faith in its own ability to govern, and it just thinks through multilateral or bilateral arrangements. That is not the way to run a country. To run a country, you need to decide what is the best interest of this country, and then, for God's sake, implement it. Do it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. We couldn't get you on the other day because you're a busy man, of course. But I did want to get your take on those extraordinary revelations in the Daily Express, I think on Monday, you know, revealing exactly what we got for the £500 million that Rishi Sunak handed Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, a few months back. What we've got is a bunch of specially commissioned gendarmes who are staying in a 4-star hotel, enjoying nights on the town in Calais, while they're on duty 6 hours a day. They work a whole 6 hours. They let the migrants through because they feel sorry for them. So what exactly do you think we got or we're getting for that massive amount of taxpayers' money that Rishi Sunak gave Macron to secure his own beaches?
So 3 years ago, Kevin, we gave them, I think, 50 million. 4 years ago, we gave them not much, 3 million quid. The following year, we gave them 50 million and more migrants came. The year after that, we gave them 55 million and more migrants, even more migrants came. Last year, we gave them 63 million pounds and even more migrants came. So what they've established, the French, is that the more migrants they send us, the more money we're prepared to pay. And so the £500 million is not going to solve the problem. All it's going to do is further embed the problem. Remember, these people smugglers, they're not genius Blofeld-type global criminals. They're running a bunch of unsophisticated people across Europe in dinghies. How difficult is it to break this criminal activity? You'd think the French would do it in 2 seconds flat. You would think the Germans would do it in 2 seconds flat. The Italians should be able to push the boats back in the Mediterranean. So should the Greeks. Why can't they do what Australia did? It's a complete collapse of political will right across Europe. Yeah. So just coming back to where we started, you know, with Starmer and now Sunak giving them money, appealing to the EU is not going to achieve anything. Yeah. They've created this problem. For goodness sake, we've got to develop our own backbone and deal with it, as we do with so many other things.
So you're not a fan of Keir's plan. Well, nor am I. And always a pleasure to talk to you, Ben. Thanks so much for your time. That's former Brexit Party MEP, he's a member of Reform UK now, Ben Habib. Always a pleasure to talk to him. When we come back...